A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth in moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today, we have a very special guest returning to our podcast, Dr. Anthony Salzarulo. He is a New York's holistic health doctor specializing in clinical nutrition, homeopathy, and natural detoxification. He has been in holistic practice for more than 25 years, teaching and inspiring clients to empower and heal themselves. So thank you once again for joining us. It was such a beautiful conversation. Last episode, we talked a little bit about immune support, Ayurveda, all different ways to help build and maintain a strong immunity. Today, we will talk about nutrition, supplements, and to help kids and adults navigate allergies and the warmer summer season. So thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on the podcast. ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial, link in the description of the podcast.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
When it comes to the beginning of spring, we can see that there's pollen coming up and sneezes and all these changes in the air with the flowers blossoming. And many kids and adults actually begin sneezing and carrying tissues in their pockets. Can you explain a little bit about how to help with that and what is the cause of so many allergies?
Good question. So that question is, the allergies are a result of something that's destructive to the body and to the physiology. In our most ideal state, we wouldn't express all these allergies, but you see so many allergies and it's growing. And that's one of the key reasons why individuals come to me and come to my practice, and especially the children, because there's allergy symptoms that are sometimes intolerable. And of course, they're trying lots of medications, but that's not really solving the problem. So one of the biggest reasons why we have allergies and so many other health disorders is toxicity. I mean, that is something that is so important to keep in mind and so important to address. Years ago, a bunch of doctors got together.
Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the #1 purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast.
They were holistically minded. They're medical doctors, functional medical doctors. They had functional medicine practices. And what they concluded was that the #1 underlying cause of just about every disease is toxicity. It's huge. And I'm going to give you some statistics around the the whole topic of chemical toxicity. First of all, chemical pollution threatens our physiology and our ecosystems because we are a garden or a terrain, and that's very disruptive. And chemical pollution also threatens the health of the planet. And it's really, really, really an important topic that's not addressed nearly to the way it should be, especially by politicians throughout the world and, of course, locally. Now, we have more than 300,000 chemicals that have been registered since the agricultural and petrochemical revolution in the 50s, 1950s, and ongoingly. Um, to give you a little bit of, to give you an appreciation, in 1990s, because one big disruptive chemical, and I'm going to segue right into allergies. A very big disruptive chemical is glyphosate. So in 1990, actually in 1992, there was approximately 13.9 million pounds of glyphosate sprayed onto U.S. crops. By 2018, there was a 20-fold increase in the amount of glyphosate that was sprayed onto U.S. crops. And that's really a very important statistic to know, because glyphosate, and it's the key herbicide that's sprayed. It's very disruptive to the barriers of the body, meaning we have the gut barrier, the lung barrier, that's the lining, and also the blood-brain barrier. And when those get disrupted, you're going to have symptoms, and allergies are certainly one of those symptoms. And unless this is addressed and dealt with, then the best you can do is just take drugs. And there's an old saying, right? If the human garden is disrupted, you have two choices. One is you drug a disrupted or an imbalanced garden, and the other one is you bring the garden back to balance. And that's what I intend to speak about a lot in this lecture.
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast.
Because if that's not understood and appreciated and then worked on, I see people sometimes come in their 70s and 80s that have had allergies their entire lives or since they're young children. And now more than ever, because of the increase of these chemicals that are disruptive, we see more and more of that. And also, I mean, as a world culture now, it's not just the West. It used to be more of the West. We eat food that's processed, bleached, genetically modified, full of colorings, additives, preservatives, hormones, antibiotics, pesticides, herbicides, petrochemicals from all the processed oils, excess sugar, excess salt, artificial sweeteners, and that's very, very disruptive. So it's easy to say, oh, there's pollen, and that's why I have the allergies. But truth be told, if the barriers are in good shape and the human garden is in good shape, you can be in areas that have a lot of pollen and you have minimal symptoms. A colleague of mine, he had a practice in an area of Texas where a certain tree grew, and probably 70% of the kids were quote unquote allergic to it and would have all of these symptoms. And I mean, what are you going to do? Cut down all of these trees? So he worked on their inner terrain and on the barriers, and they were able to live in the neighborhood and deal with the trees without taking medication.
Sanger Daniels' online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast.
But that's a journey, and that's a really important thing to know and understand, because otherwise it's just going to be lots and lots of drugs. And of course, during the process of healing, which can take time because it's like I always tell people, think of having a garden in your backyard that's been neglected and is very, very out of balance, and there's, lots of chemicals in the soil. That's going to take time to turn around. But the great thing is that nature has tremendous regenerative qualities, and it can heal itself. But you have to know what to do and why it is disrupted. Because we're born now with a body burden, and the body burden study done in 2003 with adults, and then repeated again in 2004, and then published in 2005 for children, for actually babies born, shows that we are all born with a body burden because it's just the nature of being on the planet. So that is really where I like to start when individuals have symptoms such as allergies. And of course, there's a lot of things that have to be adjusted in the diet and lifestyle, um, because it's always, you really always want to focus on the basics. I don't want anyone in my practice to come away with a bag full of vitamins and herbs and maybe some homeopathic remedies without this understanding, because then they'll most likely continue to do things that disrupt their inner garden. So I hope that began to answer your question. And
Yes.
please let me know what other questions you have.
Yes, fantastic. That was such a great explanation and bringing to focus so many issues. I mean, so many things that people face with that's connecting back to the gut that many people are beginning to realize the importance. I think we talked a little bit about the gut brain connection last time, but just to emphasize on how, like, even when people have mental distress and anxiety or depression, the gut is tied to the brain and that link. So, fixing the digestion and strengthening the gut flora, how crucial it is to actually fix the overall immune system and also help the place where serotonin is created and that's coming to the brain to feel more happy and positive. So it's like the gut is the home space, the homebound space for nurturing and creating all of these hormones to help support the entire body. So it's such an important thing, like you're mentioning, because it'll help people to focus on that area and to, when it comes to toxins and fixing the gut, what are some things people can look at or begin to maybe test or look into when it comes to trying to improve their gut flora?
Great question. So to backtrack just a moment, when you disrupt one barrier, the gut, there's also other barriers that will be disrupted. Like you said, the blood-brain barrier, because there's a lot of communication, the vagus nerve communication, the microbiome um, influence, and what we call immune system crosstalk. So there's the saying, gut on fire, brain on fire, leaky gut, leaky brain, and also the lung barrier. And that's why the lung barriers, then, because the endothelial tissue of the lungs become disruptive, and that's why you see so much asthma and respiratory issues. So when you heal one, you're healing all of them, because it's the same things that disrupt them. And where you want to start always is with the basics. So the basics are diet. and knowing what foods are inflammatory. So without getting too complicated and esoteric about it, of course, processed foods have lots of chemicals and glyphosate. They also have, we're one of the few countries around internationally. I just actually did some research. So there's potassium bromate that our food is bleached with. Potassium bromate is very destructive to the barriers to the cells. It's actually considered a human carcinogen or a possible human carcinogen, and it's been banned by most countries, including the European Union, Canada, Brazil, India, Japan, and even China has banned or limited its use, but the United States has not. So when we process foods, we're eating the potassium bromate, we're eating or we're consuming the glyphosate, and that's why it's best to eat organic whenever you can or locally raised produce from farmers that you're familiar with. And look, we're not going to get all of this out of us. We're not going to be able to eliminate the ingestion or coming in because now about 85% of the ecosystems in the United States have glyphosate. So we're exposed to it, but you can help the body get rid of it. So eating whole foods, very important. Drinking filtered water, very, very important. I like, of course, reverse osmosis is one of the best filters, and now there's companies that are have filters that are easy to install and not terribly expensive. That's been an evolution because they used to be very complicated to install and also very expensive. And so those are important practices. Of course, getting enough rest is very important. Exercise that helps to move the fluids in the body. I mean, these are things that we forget, and we are by and large a very under-rested society, and we've become more and more dormant over the years, and all of that is starting to change. And I hope that individuals like myself, there's a lot of great practitioners out there that do good work and they're doing their best to educate individuals. So, of course, that's important to help with the barriers. And then there's certain nutrients that are important that I'd like to explain a little bit down the road here. And then there's detoxification practices, nutrients or the practices for
Yes.
allergies and other symptoms.
Are there any vitamins or foods to help with keeping allergies and inflammation down?
When you look at the whole picture, because if there's a symptom, there's reasons for it. And that's the best way to look at it. Because then you're that's really at the heart of holistic health. So I have this symptom and what is the underlying cause? And then once you know that, then you can start to say, okay, how do I deal with that? So we know that the barriers are being disrupted. And when they are, see, when they're disrupted, things get out into the bloodstream that don't belong there. And that causes a cycle of inflammation. It's just like if you're in, the way I like to explain it with the gut barriers is think of yourself in like a gazebo or a screened in porch, and you're very comfortable and relaxing and sipping some tea, and you can see bugs outside. Let's say it's a spring or summer day, and everything's good. You're in a peaceful state. Now all of a sudden, you start to see bugs all over the place, and you're agitated because why are all these bugs flying around and what do I do and I got to kill them. this is kind of what happens with the immune system when things, because the only reasons why the bugs would be now in your space is there's a breach to the screens and things are getting in that shouldn't get in. And the same thing happens with the gut lining. Things are getting into the the bloodstream and it's causing a lot of inflammation to it's basically agitating and putting the immune system on a alert response. And then there's something called cytokines. There's a like a cytokine storm, and then you're going to see a lot of these types of symptoms and what we call allergic symptoms. So what you want to do is take things that help to heal the barriers. And of course, you always want to start with the basics. So let's say now the processed foods are by and large out of the diet. You're drinking enough good water. You're getting enough rest. There's exercise in place. Now you say, what can I do to get this handled? One of the key supplements that I like and I prescribe it all the time is a product called Ion Gut Support. It's from the okay, so the soil has carbon tetrahydrite molecules that are there. They're signaling molecules, and that's what the good or the good bacteria, the probiotics grow on. It's the foundation of those. When we spray the crops, we change the whole microbiome structure of the soil. And that also, when those foods come into us and those chemicals, they disrupt our microbiome. So I like to start with ion gut support because it reestablishes the microbiome inside of us, just like when the in nature, when you, because nature heals nature. When you put, if a piece of soil has been damaged and disrupted, you have to bring in healthy soil, fertilizer, and things to reestablish that. So that's one of the first nutrients that I recommend. And it also helps to clear out a lot of this glyphosate and potassium bromate. It's fantastic because it's made from healthy soil. It's actually made from ancient soil. And I like to start a little bit. Sometimes people say, "Oh, my stools were a little looser," or "I'm going to the bathroom more." And I say that's great because now the microbiome inside of you is reestablishing itself. Vitamin D, which, I mean, if you look at blood tests, I look at thousands of them. The high majority of individuals are low in vitamin D. And vitamin D turns on at least 150 different genes for gut healing. And we cannot get enough vitamin D just by getting the sunlight. There was a study done many years ago with Venezuelan lifeguards, and Venezuela is like sitting right in the area of the equator. And I mean, if you're a lifeguard, you're out in the sun a lot and your body is exposed, your skin is exposed, you're getting a lot of vitamin D. And the majority of them did not have ideal levels. And ideal levels are higher than what would be what we call the blood range or you know, the lab range. It's on the higher end of that. So vitamin D, vitamin A also has uh, healing qualities. I like to take it in the form of beta carotene because it's water soluble and it's easier for the body to excrete. A good probiotic, very important, but I usually wait on prescribing a probiotic until an individual has taken the ion gut support for at least like 6 weeks. Very, very, very important. And it's important to know that these things need to be taken over the long period. It's not like, because sometimes you need to wait a season, meaning you have this season And then you have allergies. People say, what do I take? What do I take? Well, you want to build up the gut, but it might be, you might have to wait until the next season to really see things change in a profound way. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take what you're taking. It's just that the whole microbiome inside of you is reestablishing itself. So I have the opinion that you don't have to suffer your way to health. So if you need to take certain um, allergy suppressants, do so. But there are certain natural things to take. There's a product by Boron. It's a homeopathic. It's called Allergy Calm, and it has a lot of the key homeopathic remedies like sabadilla and histaminum and euphrasia and allium cepa. It has them all in a combination. And there's a product by Apex Energetics. I mean, there's a lot of products out there, and a lot of them have similar ingredients. And this one has, it's called Histo X. It has quercetin and stinging nettles and ginger and a product called mangosaline extract. And these help to temper the allergic response, but they're not going to solve the problem because we now know what the problem is. So while you're taking these supplements, you're also reestablishing the microbiome and healing the barriers. And that's real health. And we need to practice this in today's world. It's so important. I mean, look at statistically. I went to school in the 60s in grade school and then, high school in the 70s. There were so few children that had symptoms. I don't know any really where, oh, there's this nut allergy and they have to carry an EpiPen and all these uh, reactions to food, because back then the barriers were in better shape. They didn't have all of this disruption. But now we have it, and we see so much of this because it's a different world. The chemical, the the quotes I gave you on the amount of spraying and the amount. I mean, it's just there's more chemicals around us in the food, and that doesn't mean we have to be afraid and think that these chemicals are going to destroy us, but it calls us to be mindful and especially take care of our internal ecology, because if not, we're going to almost certainly have chronic symptoms, and
Yes.
allergies certainly being one of them.
Yes, exactly. All the tips you've mentioned so beautifully laid out and so clear to guide people to help them what they should take and how to do the rebuilding process. And it's so true, like you mentioned, it's not a quick fix because you're rebuilding and that takes time. That takes season by season. Like I remember when I started taking fish oil. I think a naturopathic doctor just wanted to help, like to rebuild my brain health and to make me more like mentally strong and capable. And I remember that it took a long time, that I didn't see any results right away when I was taking fish oil. I just maybe felt sometimes more energized, but my mental clarity didn't come into full focus until maybe like a month or two later. So, like you mentioned, that slow burn process, it's so true. It takes time, but you need that slow process to rebuild it because then it's like you're starting from a strong foundation. And that takes the most work, right? It's to build a strong foundation to begin building a strong building or something strong. So, it is true that it does take time, but it's important to take those right steps. And even if you're not getting results right away, especially when it is for rebuilding the gut health to have optimum vitality, you have to have a little patience for that process.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yes, and when it comes to, do you have any favorite supplements and herbs to assist the body in detoxification, especially for the spring and summer seasons?
Yeah. So the ion gut health is a big one. See, the it's important to keep in mind. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to do a spring detox, a fall detox. And if you look at some of the time honored systems like Ayurveda, that's the time that they emphasize detoxification. And that's great. However, detoxification should be done on a daily basis. It's like cleaning your house. It would be a big problem if you only cleaned your house in the spring and in the fall, and then all the time in between, it just accumulated lots of garbage and junk. So the daily practices for detoxification, we mentioned water, we mentioned diet. I love if you can get people can get into a sauna, body brushing from the just takes a couple of minutes. I have a body brush on my right on the wall of my shower, and I do that. Herbs like milk thistle and dandelion are very helpful. I prescribe them a lot. I prescribe them not just during these times of detoxification, but they certainly can be taken for, like, let's say you want to say, I want to do a spring detox and I want to do like a 3 week detox. And it can be taken in the form of a tea. There's lots of teas you can get even on Amazon. Always get organic uh, milk thistle and dandelion tea because they have a lot to do with the liver and the kidney, which are major detoxification organs. So I like those. Nettles is a great herb, and it mineralizes the body, and it's particularly good around spring and fall. So that's great for a lot of individuals, especially if they have chronic symptoms. Glutathione. See, glutathione was a problem years ago because it doesn't make it through the digestive tract. So if people wanted to have access to glutathione, they would have to have it injected. And you'd have a lot of clinics that did IV glutathione. But now, since we have liposomal, it's able to enter the cells through the liposomal preparations of glutathione. And glutathione is a great, great supplement for detoxification. We all have glutathione inside of us, but it gets depleted when we have inflammation in our bodies and we have, chronic inflammation and chronic conditions. So it's really important, and that's another supplement that I prescribe quite a bit. And you mentioned fish oils. There's on my website, there's an oil, healthy fats and oil section. So I mentioned about the importance of taking them, the importance of omega oils. I wrote something on olive oil, which is really great, and also seed oils, the truth about seed oils, because seed oils, one of the big problems with seed oils is they have been the culprit of a lot of food companies that have exploited them and heavily processed them because some of them, when they're in their purest form, have health benefits. So, taking in oils, I mean, they have great anti inflammatory properties and they help to balance the terrain, and anything that balances the terrain is going to help the body to detox. So, those are important nutrients. And there's really so many good teas out there because teas are easy to take in. They're assimilated by the body more readily. And there's Ayurvedic companies that have different, like they even have teas now, spring detox tea and fall detox tea. And it has a lot of the key herbs that I just mentioned, but some other synergistic combinations. So that's very helpful um, That's very helpful. And that's a great start because a lot of people say, like, I don't even know where to start. What do I do? I would love to do a detox. So those are good starts. And then, of course, if you can get in a sauna a few times a week while you're detoxing, body brushing is very important, but I think we should body brush all the time. Maybe drink some more water. And you know what's a great detoxification practice is breathing, taking deep breaths. I have my clients breathe in and but really breathe in, and I like them to start with 5 or 10 breaths and then work their way up to 25 breaths uh, twice a day. And you know what? So many of them tell me, they say, Doc, I haven't taken a deep breath in months or years. Like, if we don't do it consciously, we often don't do it. So that's another great detoxification practice. Yeah.
100%. I remember taking yoga classes, and sometimes we would have to stay in a pose and do the deep breathing. And it's like you forget that you're not actively, consciously taking this responsibility to slow down and to focus on your breath and your posture. And it really does help. So I recommend everybody to even do yoga, because I have so many yoga clients who just feel so much more relaxed after a few sessions, and they feel like their minds are more clear. And it's the intention behind it. You're intentionally choosing to slow down, and that does take a little bit of a challenge to begin with. But over time, just like the fish oil, it takes time to get accustomed to it and get it integrated into the body. But the body starts recognizing these small but sure changes in a very positive light. So it's fantastic.
Yes.
And when it comes to like summer and spring, I know it's a beautiful time to have like berries and connect to the fruits of the vines. What are your favorite fruits that you enjoy and that have great health benefits?
Well, if you look into a lot of the time honored traditions, what they'll say is, I mean, it's a different world now because there's fruits and produce shipped in from other countries. We didn't have that luxury years ago. So it would be like what's grown locally, what at the particular time. So what comes in season. And if you work with local farmers, you'll see certain berries come in at this time. Apples usually come in a little bit later. So if you follow that, that's really great. But sometimes that's more difficult. And I look even in because there's a supermarket across from where I live, and I see that there's certain, like, pomegranates are there at a certain time, and then they're not there at another time. So you can see what comes in at particular times, and those are better to consume. And I like berries because they're very high in antioxidants and phytonutrients, and especially if you use the different colors. So they're a great addition to your meals. You could even put them in salads, and you could juice them and or make smoothies with them and have them like as a little dessert. Because eating the traditional desserts is kind of disastrous. And we sometimes, all of us, and myself included, we have a little bit of a sweet tooth. So you could just take some berries. Sometimes I'll have berries with maybe like some pecans or sunflower seeds, and I try and get those that are in season. And then there's different apples that are in season. I see that from the local farmers, and I'll do that. And I do my best to stick with, and pears. Pears are great. Once again, there's different pears and seasons at different times, so I do my best to stick with that principle. I mean, in the winter, then of course you're going to get things that are shipped in, and what is becoming more popular, which is really cool, is people have their own greenhouses, so they can grow things throughout the year, and you can have the fresh produce. And some local farmers now are getting into this type of uh, uh, farming and produce growing techniques. There's even things called vertical farming. People are growing things because we have space issues, especially if you live in a city. So you have this vertical farming. So just staying with the basic principles, right? Unprocessed foods, locally grown whenever it's possible, a variety. The microbiome loves a variety, and that's why it's good to rotate different foods. Um, yeah, that's very helpful.
That's
And color
fantastic.
and lots of colorful foods.
Yes, and people love having like wild blueberries. They just put it into their
Yes.
smoothie or into their fruit
Mm.
bowl, put some chai seeds and like mix everything around. That's also really great to add all these different nutrition-based foods to create a nice like yogurt parfait for breakfast.
Yes, perfect. Perfect. And one thing that I didn't mention for a detoxification technique, and it's really so great and it's free of charge, is earthing, right? Grounding, putting your feet or being in a body of water that's connected to Mother Earth. It is such a great detoxification practice. And there's people that we're we're actually the only animals, including even the insect world, that doesn't ground on a regular basis because some of us live in apartments or homes. Of course, there's the flooring that's not connected to the earth. We don't take our shoes off. We walk on surfaces that are paved surfaces. So we could go weeks, months, or even longer without actually exchanging the energy with the earth, because you're exchanging electron energy with the earth, and it's really balancing. It's great for the physiology, great for the microbiome. It's also great for the you know the emotions, the psychology, all of that. Terrific. And when clients tell me that they want to focus on cleansing, I'll tell them to get out and earth more, because you can certainly do it in the spring and the summer and the early fall. And yeah, go in your backyard or a park and take your shoes off or walk on the beach. It's really great. It's
Yes,
really
that is
great.
so fantastic. And now it is a great opportunity because we're actually aligned with earthing because we're in the season astrologically of Taurus season. So that's like the earth symbol of grounding and connecting to earth
Yes.
in a way where we're showing gratitude for the blossoms, for the beauty, for the trees, and for everything, even the pollen.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's other things about pollen that we could go on for hours. There's an imbalance of the earth, and then there's a preponderance of pollen, and that's become a problem too. And that's part of the reason why another reason why we have these symptoms. But knowing that, then we have to really up our internal game so we can deal with that. I mean, as a kid, I was always stuffed up, sneezing, and I used to take that. What was that? I think it was called
Nasal
Dristan,
spray?
or because I couldn't breathe. And now, even in times of very increased pollen, I'm okay because I've
Amazing.
worked my inner ecology, my inner garden, to a place where I have a very balanced microbiome, and that's what I teach my clients to do
That's
through these
beautiful.
practices that we're talking about.
Yes, that's fantastic. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on the podcast again and sharing all of your inspired stories and tips to help the collective take back their health and align with their true vitality. It's been an honor and such a great gift. And where can people
Thank you for having me, and I send out lots of love and blessings to the audience. And like I always like to end my presentations with, is it's an honor to serve, and the earth is honored to serve you, and have fun with it all, and know that health is your destiny. Vibrant health is your destiny, and it's your birthright. And
Amen.
it's a great journey, and it's an endless journey. So thank you very much for having me.